Finally, we can turn our attention to the persuasive message in the packet. By far the lengthiest of the three, this message has much to accomplish, and like the negative message we just reviewed, sometimes persuasive messages also need considerable space to do so. Ironically, perhaps, this message is placed in an email format, and of the three, this would be the one I might think most likely to be placed in a letter format because of the situation. Likewise, more and more refund requests, like the first message, which was drafted as a letter, and traditionally refunds have been drafted that way, can be done via email now rather than through officially printed letters. That said, so many messages are exchanged online through email and social media today that a longer message such as this one has become completely acceptable and quite the norm. If you remember the cover memo, the writer did a good job of outlining the use of ADA in the message, and you can clearly trace the strategy she or he outlines at play. So the first paragraph, A, attention; second paragraph, interest; third paragraph, desire; and fourth paragraph, action. So let's see how well this person does. Okay. The first paragraph draws the reader's attention by complimenting her about the greatness of the cafe, the way that the addition of Wi-Fi has really enhanced the place, and a suggestion that there might be a related way to attract even more business. So that works fairly well, especially the ending where there might be a way to attract even more business. That would draw my attention if I was the manager of this place. So the second paragraph here should attempt to build the reader's interest, and in some ways it begins to by explaining why students come to the coffee house, but this really does more to inform than to interest at this point. Here I might suggest for the writer to plant more seeds about potentially bringing in more customers by expanding and enhancing the great work already done with the Wi-Fi by complementing it with perhaps additional options for students, such as a printing station. Okay, I know that sounds somewhat like desire, but I'm not really getting all I could from either of those things in this email yet, and so bear with me a little bit here. Remember, you're going to want to evaluate one another in these too, and so these are things that you'll want to sharpen your skills with, because you really will want to make sure that you help one another produce the most effective messages that will have the desired impact and result that each writer is looking to gain in the rhetorical situation. So similar to the interest paragraph, the desire paragraph gives yet more information about this particular student and her friends rather than stirring any kind of desire in me, at least, and I doubt in the manager of this coffee house. Here she or he discusses how the coffee shop must be bypassed on days when assignments are due because the students need to travel to the campus to print. And here there's kind of a personal narrative of, I had to purchase it at the coffee shop that is located closer to the campus, not by choice, but because I didn't have an alternative if I wanted to print out my assignment to turn it in on time. So that is related to what this writer is trying to do in the message here, but it is not explicit enough, and the connections aren't being drawn, and it certainly really isn't hitting the desire button here. It's drawing a connection that the reader's probably saying, okay, so you're not happy because you had to go to school and print something, and you'd like to do it here. Okay. In the action paragraph, which is the fourth paragraph here, we finally do get a little interest raising and desire building, and even a suggestion for action in the final couple sentences, although somewhat brief because it is all crowded within this one paragraph right now. So this email is very solid already and developing well, but is more informative and writer student centered right now than you centered or reader centered or manager of coffee house centered, or really focused upon trying to connect with or persuade the audience here. Not all is lost by any means, however. The next step for this writer would be to re-examine each paragraph more closely, but this time from the audience's perspective, and then refocus the message paragraphs more tightly upon bringing more business to the cafe. That will still involve a consideration of how to draw students into the cafe, but those things must be viewed more directly and explicitly through the lens of increasing the cafe's business instead of through the lens of the student's own perception. Basically, the writer needs to make all the connections explicit that she or he is leaving implicit right now between the student's interest in the cafe and their need to print, with the potential impact adding a customer printing station could have to increase the cafe's business and profits. Profits. That's a good motivator right there. Do that, and the audience, in this case, the cafe manager, will be much more interested and likely to build a desire to incorporate a printing station. That said, this is a great package already, and I hope that your own RNP message packet turns out just as well and even better. Good luck with these.